My childhood has been extensively recorded, thanks to my mum being so good at recording everything and then storing that stuff in a safe place, away from damp and damage. I now have 60 VHS tapes stacked up in my room. These document my life from between the ages of 1 month and about 14 years old, at which point it moved on over to DVDs. The frame rate doubled and the quality got significantly better. This sort of archive is rare, because it requires several steps, namely these videos being recorded and stored correctly, and it's this combination of having the right equipment, archiving it properly, and storing it for enough time that has, and will continue to, destroy most home recorded footage from before the digital era. Which is why I was so keen to digitise what we have. A few years ago I bought my parents the kit to do it with. It wasn't expensive at all, but unfortunately they lacked the computing hardware to do it. So now it's down to me and 2 8-core PCs to get through this monster of a project, and to store this archive forevermore. My good old Dell Ryzen 1700X PC plays these tapes and records them into a large file, and then on my other machine I edit those files, splitting them up into segments and then compressing them down into small finished video files, which I then share onto friends and family. If I was to do this full time and nothing else, then it would probably take me and my PCs about 3 weeks to complete the entire project. Most of the process can be automated, but it still takes me about an hour per VHS to scan through and to split each VHS recording into segments, and then to name each one accordingly. Luckily, my mum left extremely detailed notes for each VHS tape, which act as a general guide for me to follow when splitting the scenes, but I do sometimes decide to group some together or to split others up further. Luckily for me, I have all the digital knowledge required to do this process properly. I know how to preserve the same frame rate and aspect ratio, and to keep the quality good enough while still fitting it into today's storage devices. I have a few rules that I follow. I convert it all, even the stuff I dislike. I don't edit the footage beyond getting the volume right and splitting it into chapters. And, most difficult for me, I don't try to improve the footage. I don't try to stabilise it, nor to upscale the image or frame rate. I'll leave that for a future generation to do. If I attempt it now, then it'll only hamper efforts to improve it later on when the technology gets better. I see my purpose as being to simply digitise what's already there. The biggest decision that I have to make is which quality to store these videos in. If you ask people online how to do it, you'll either be told to keep it all uncompressed, which will take up literally terabytes of storage, or you'll be told to use the absolute latest video standards, even if they're 1,000 times slower than the other ones, or incomplete in their implementations right now. I have instead opted for H.265, which I still believe to be one of the best that you can use. I've been using it since 2016, so I know it well. It's got good software support, I can easily use it in my Handbrake program to batch render clips, and I can rely on it to produce consistently good looking videos at small enough sizes for practical sharing and storage across a number of devices. These videos are being encoded at 720 by 576, 25 FPS, at roughly the right aspect ratio, and it works out at about 1 GB per VHS tape. And that's being generous. I could probably have dropped it down to maybe about 400 megabytes before extra digital artifacts started becoming a problem. I say extra because I know the recording quality isn't great in the first place. I entered this project with the modern theory that more bitrate and bigger files means better image quality, but beyond a certain point with these VHS recordings, it ends up getting bogged down recording the interlacing, the blemishes and the general wobbliness of the analog recording itself, which I don't think adds much value to the videos. Indeed, if I wanted to improve the quality of these recordings, then I should try to minimise the analog artifacts being encoded in the first place, which are beyond my ability to control. There's always a visible fizz on at least one edge of the footage, some frames are gone entirely, and the image isn't measured in pixels. But if it was, then it would probably be something tiny like 300 by 225. I accept I'm not using the best quality equipment. I know my mum wasn't either, and I accept that digitising this backup is going to add yet more image degradation to the footage. I just aim to try and keep it to a minimum. I know that if I don't do this, then nobody will, and this backup will eventually be lost forever. But I have to be careful, for this is the kind of project that would defeat a perfectionist. If you record a scene several times with different tracking settings, then manually spliced each frame together, you could theoretically get a better result than what I'm getting, but you simply can't do that when you've got hundreds of hours of content to get through. I don't know anybody else with records like this. Everybody my age is lucky if they have one recording from their childhood, and they're understandably sad that they can't flick through and replay every stage of their life like I can. A few things about these recordings have surprised me. I would have said I had maybe a dozen memories before I was 10, yet every scene I see, even when I'm as young as 1 or 2, brings back a memory of some sort. Sometimes it's only a coloured flavour of a memory, the faintest whiff of one, or something oddly specific about that day that I was transfixed on at the time. But I think our memories of our childhood are more extensive than we first think. It just takes a bit of a reminder to revive them. Doing this project has certainly lost the mystery of childhood for me. All that nostalgia of an early time is diminished by having such a comprehensive visual record of it. But the voices surprise me. Many people from my childhood that I remember, I have forgotten the voices of. I didn't realise I'd forgotten them until I heard them again in these recordings. And they don't sound how I imagined they did. It's lovely to hear them again, but now from the new perspective of being an adult. And music's another weird one. There are a few songs that I'm sickly nostalgic to thanks to early associations with, but apparently this is very hit and miss. These records show that I danced to many songs as a child that I have since forgotten about entirely, and hearing them again doesn't unlock any sort of nostalgia or new memories, they're just songs that I was dancing to as a child. And that's it. I take this sort of record for granted. I know I do. In fact, it's the opposite problem that most people have, and I'm sick of trawling through dozens of hours of me as a baby, falling asleep and waddling about corridors. There's a happy balance to be struck somewhere between the two, and in a way, I wish we had left more as an unrecorded mystery, so that I only have those warm, faded yet fond memories of them to remember them by. I feel that those things do kind of get overwritten when you find a video of that day that documents it so much better. My advice to anybody with ancient archives is to get on and to digitise them before they degrade any further. They will be breaking apart, and the longer you leave it, the more that will be lost forever. And to anybody setting out to start a record of their own, record in moderation. Try to limit footage of big events to just 3 to 4 minutes in length. And try to capture everyone there, not just a few people. And every few months, try to film the mundane. The living room, your daily routine, your friends, your parents. Because it's surprising how many of these seemingly static things change over time. All these years I've been documenting stuff and I still don't know how to name my files, because what matters about them changes as the clips get older. When things are still relatively new, then the exact dates and the events being recorded seem to matter quite a lot, but as the footage gets older it becomes less about what's happening and when, and more about who's in it. You probably don't need to know specifically if something was recorded on the 26th of January 1991, but I still try to record it precisely because very, very infrequently it does matter. And then it matters a lot. I name everything by year, then by month, then by day, so that it naturally falls into chronological order when I sort by name. But even doing this rather sensible thing of naming the files by the date of the footage can cause problems, because sometimes it's better to group similar clips filmed over the course of weeks or months together into one big video. What date do you give that? And then, what should the rest of the file be called? I went through a stage of bothering to say where the clips were recorded and who was involved in the footage, which makes it easy to search for footage of certain people and places, provided I'm consistent with the naming. But these days I find myself a lot more lazy in the naming of my files. I fully expect an automated system to eventually take over, scanning videos for faces and places, kind of like Google does with photos already. But giving companies control over my archives is still something I'm a bit wary of, and I'd rather retain full control of them for now. I've concluded that people are the most important part of video clips. As an example, the moment my grandparents appear in a scene, I create a specific video clip just for them. Because it's the people involved in a video clip which determines who would want to watch that video clip and when. I do find myself second guessing what's going to happen in the future. My parents still get frustrated with me for recording everything in 4K because their PCs can't handle that, but I'd rather have to re-encode it at a lower quality just for them now than to ruin the video clip forevermore when I know that 10 to 20 years into the future it'll be irrelevant how hard it is to run a file now. H.265 has its video keyframes so far apart that you can't just smoothly jump to where in the video you want to view. It'll instead jump to the start of each new sequence, which makes it hard to scan through videos. This is something that I hope will be defeated by the ever-increasing processing power available to us, but it is a compromise that I accept when storing videos for now. I just accept that it's going to be impossible to predict what happens in the future, but I try to make decisions now that I think my future self will understand as being sensible at the time. Ultimately, I still try to archive things the old-fashioned way. I see people today filming random clips here and there on their phones. It seems to be how things will be documented going forward, but I still resist the temptation to leave my footage in the hands of a company just in case they lose it or something. One thing's for sure though, mobile phones and digital content has changed how people document events. It makes many things about the process a lot easier, but I still think there are good habits to be learned from combining this with older methods as well. Time will tell. I don't think there's a grand plan, but if there is, then I wouldn't be surprised if mine was digitising this archive, because it staggers me how many things had to happen for the backups to reach this stage. Not only did my parents record hundreds of hours of footage, but they took the time to document and to store it safely. And now I just happen to be somebody obsessed with encoding and compression, and in backing up old stuff. It's like I was made for this project. There comes a point when you go from being a baby doing baby things into a little person who shows signs of the sort of person that you'll eventually become. And that's when the cringe comes, because because it's an awkward transition period where you still don't possess the knowledge to be good at what you want to become. And the footage of me as a child is particularly cringe because I made lots of movies where I ripped off Doctor Who, or where I created that creepy claymation video of a monster bursting out a mummy's chest, which, when given the context that it was made by a 9-year-old, makes it somewhat unsettling. My family has lots of cringe videos from before when cringe videos were cool, but it's not all been cringe. And this VHS project has left me with one more gift. Like I said, I'm a weird person and I still do many cringe and embarrassing things, and so I've always seen my younger self as being even worse than I am now. So I guess, extrapolating back, I've always imagined baby Philip as being the creepiest, least human little demon ever to walk the earth. I actually dreaded seeing baby Philip during this project.
Thank you. Now, Your Majesty, would you please tell us what is the next utterly brilliant thingy on the show?
Yet I wasn't like that at all. I was sweet and good-tempered, happy and friendly. I was even sociable. And it's been a weird morale booster to see that I used to be such a sweet little person, who found joy wherever I went and with whoever I hung around with. So no, I'm not a parent, so I can't get all proud of my own children. But I can be proud of my baby self. Way to go, Philip.